Sorry, we'll celebrate another time. Something came up. My family texted as I waited alone at my contract celebration dinner. I paid the $1,780 bill, said nothing, and went home. Hours later, I saw them at the county fair, cheering my cousin's rodeo win. I canceled the $2,300 mortgage payment, froze their gas cards, and left an envelope marked "Read Together." By morning, 78 missed calls. You'd think a man getting appointed as the lead architect on a multi-million-dollar government contract would get at least a pat on the back from his family. Maybe a toast, a handshake, even. But not me. My name's Carl. I'm 36 years old, live just outside of Waco, Texas, and I've been working my ass off for the last 15 years to get here. Civil engineering might not sound glamorous, but this new contract was the kind of thing that changes careers and lives. I booked the private room at Bailey Ridge Winery 2 months in advance. White tablecloths, candles, a custom menu, the works. I even made sure there was steak for Uncle Rick, who doesn't eat rabbit food. There were 12 place settings at that long oak table, all of them spotless. The server kept asking if I wanted to start with drinks, but I kept telling him to wait. They're on their way, I said. But the sun went down. Then the bread got cold. At 6:43 p.m., I got the text. Something came up. We'll celebrate another time. Mom, that was it. No explanation. No apology. I stared at the screen for a while, trying to convince myself it wasn't what it clearly was. I didn't respond, just sat there, trying not to feel the heat building behind my eyes. The server came back around, clearing his throat. Want me to start a tab? I nodded. I already knew I wasn't going to eat. They didn't just skip out. They ditched me. I started refreshing Facebook around 7:30, maybe out of habit, and that's when I saw it. Pictures. Dozens of them. My cousin Travis, shirtless and grinning in a rodeo arena. My sister clapping from the stands. My mom holding a funnel cake and smiling like she just won the lottery. Caption read, "So proud of our cowboy tonight. What a win." That county fair was an hour up the road in Gatesville. They were all there. Every single one of them. Not even trying to hide it. I could barely breathe. It wasn't about the wine or the food or the fancy room. Hell, I wouldn't have cared if we'd done it at the diner down the road. I just wanted one damn night where I wasn't an afterthought. Instead, I sat alone while they clapped for Travis because he managed to stay on a bull for 8 seconds. I've been staying on the damn bull that is my career for over a decade, holding this family up financially, fixing things they couldn't figure out, and they treat me like background noise. The server brought the check around 9:15. I didn't even flinch when I saw the total, $1,780. I handed him my card, signed without a tip, and left before the last table finished dessert. Outside, the night air was cold. I stood in the parking lot for a few seconds, staring at the gravel under my boots. They didn't even call. Not once. I climbed into my truck, pulled out of the lot, and drove home without saying a word. Not to them. Not to anyone. When I got back, I turned off my phone and sat on the couch in the dark. My eyes burned, but I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just shut down. I kept thinking, if this was me winning, what the hell does losing look like? And deep down, I knew this wasn't new. They'd always favored Travis. He was the one who stayed close, showed up to the barbecues, rode bulls and fixed fences. He made them laugh. I made them money. But tonight they showed me exactly where I stood. And for the first time in my life, I started to wonder what it would look like if I stepped away. Not just for a night, for good. I woke up the next morning before the sun, still dressed in yesterday's clothes. My jaw ached from clenching it all night. My phone sat face down on the kitchen counter. I didn't need to check it. I already knew it'd be filled with excuses, half-hearted texts, and maybe a late night. "Where were you?" from someone trying to pretend like nothing happened. But I didn't care anymore. I walked to the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, and stood there drinking it while staring out the window at the frost on the pasture. The family ranch sat 25 miles west, near Valley Mills. 100 acres of Texas dirt and debt. And I'd been making the mortgage payments on it since 2021, $2,300 a month like clockwork, because they couldn't keep up after Dad's back surgery and Mom's hip replacement. Except, funny thing is, I never saw a deed with my name on it. Not once. I grabbed my laptop, opened up the banking portal, and hovered over the automatic mortgage transfer. Next payment, November 3rd. Amount, $2,300. Status, scheduled. I canceled it with one click. Next, I logged into the fuel card portal. My brother Jared had a card in his name. I'd co-signed it when he couldn't get approved after that DUI. He used it for emergencies, but funny how it always coincided with fishing trips and beer runs. My sister Rachel had a grocery card too, for her and the girls. Since being a single mom was hard, and Carl, you've always been so responsible. I deactivated both cards, locked them, then called the companies to report them compromised, just to be safe. After that, I got dressed. Jeans, boots, a dark flannel. Same clothes I wore every Sunday at Dad's place. I drove out to the ranch, the gravel crunching under the tires louder than it needed to be. I didn't knock. I didn't even get out of the truck. I parked, stepped onto the porch, and pulled the sealed envelope from my jacket. Thick, cream-colored paper, labeled in blue ink. "Read Together." I placed it neatly between the two rocking chairs. Then I got back in the truck and drove away without looking back. The letter was simple, 2 pages. I told them I was done. Not angry, not lashing out, just done. I listed everything I'd paid for in the last 3 years. Ranch mortgage, power bills, Jared's gas card, Rachel's groceries, the vet bills for mom's dog, the AC repair, the new well pump, all of it. Then I wrote, y'all made it clear where your priorities are. And for once, I believe you. I won't chase people who don't show up for me. This isn't revenge. It's clarity. Don't call me for money. Don't call me for favors. I'm not the safety net anymore. I signed it Carl, because son didn't feel right anymore. By the time I got home, it had started. 78 missed calls, 22 from mom, 10 from dad, 5 from Rachel. The rest from a blur of numbers I didn't bother labeling. I didn't answer any of them. The texts came next, first polite, then pleading, then angry. Jared wrote, "What the hell, man?" Rachel said, "The girls need food." Carl, "Are you serious?" Mom texted, "Sweetheart, we didn't mean to hurt you. Please don't do this." And then, of course, came the guilt. "Your daddy's heart can't take this kind of stress. We didn't think the dinner was that important. You're punishing all of us for one little mix-up. You think Travis would have ever done half of what you did? He hasn't lifted a finger." Exactly, I wanted to reply, but I didn't. Instead, I made myself a cup of coffee, walked out onto my back porch, and watched the sky shift from steel gray to soft gold. For the first time in years, I felt something settle in my chest. Peace. Not because they understood, not because they apologized, but because I finally stopped begging for it. They could keep their funnel cakes and rodeo claps. They made their choice. Now I was making mine. By the end of the week, I stopped counting the calls. My phone was a war zone. Voicemails layered on top of voicemails. Half of them guilt trips, the other half just noise. But what came next? That was a whole different beast. It started with a Facebook post. My mother, of all people, posted a black and white photo of a rose wilting on a windowsill. The caption read, "Sometimes the ones who owe you the most turn their back the hardest. Betrayal isn't always from strangers. Some wounds come dressed as family." 100 likes in an hour. Cousins, neighbors, people from church, all piling on with sad reacts and vague comments like, "Stay strong," and "Family will be family." No names, of course, but everyone knew, and I knew what it was. She was setting the stage, painting herself the victim. Quiet manipulation, the kind that spreads just enough to make people start whispering. I didn't reply, but I screenshotted it. The next day, my voicemail pinged again, this time from Dad. I hit play, standing in the middle of my kitchen with my arms crossed. "I don't know what the hell you're thinking, boy. You cut off the ranch payment like it's nothing? Do you even know what happens if that land goes under? That's your grandfather's land. His sweat built it. You've always had a problem putting family first. That's why you don't belong here." Never really did. He hung up without saying goodbye, just static and silence. I replayed it once, then deleted it. That afternoon, I got a text from Rachel, a full essay, like she'd been writing it for days. "Carl, you're unbelievable. You really think cutting off our cards and leaving some smug little letter makes you a martyr? You always thought you were better than us. You were just waiting for a reason to pull the plug and play victim." The girls cried when I told them you canceled the grocery card. "I hope you're proud of yourself. Mom's a wreck. Jared's been spiraling. I've never seen Dad this angry. Hope your wine tasted real good while we were at the fair." I read it twice. Not one word about skipping my celebration. Not one word of ownership. Just deflection and rage. But it wasn't over. That night, my boss, Michael Jensen, head of our engineering firm, called me into his office. I'd been working there almost 6 years. We weren't friends, but we had mutual respect. He had promoted me for a reason. He shut the door behind me and cleared his throat. "Carl," he said, tapping the desk, "got a weird call this morning from someone claiming to be your mother." I didn't say anything. I already felt the heat crawling up my neck. He continued, "She said she's concerned about your mental health. Mentioned you might be acting erratically. Suggested we check in on you before, quote, something serious happens." He paused, studying me. I sat forward, calm and steady. "She's upset I stopped paying her bills." Michael raised an eyebrow. "Bills? Long story," I said. "But I can assure you, I'm not a threat to anyone, including myself." He nodded slowly. "Didn't think so. HR had to file the call. Standard protocol. But I already blocked the number on your behalf. That did something to me. They weren't just angry. They were trying to ruin me. Calling my boss? Telling him I'm unstable? That wasn't family drama. That was sabotage. Thanks for the heads up," I said. "Of course," he replied. Then after a pause, "You want me to document this in case it continues?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. "Start a file. This isn't over." I walked out of that office tighter than a fist. My phone buzzed on the way to my car, another comment notification from Mom's post. This one from a second cousin I barely knew. "Can't believe what some kids will do to their parents after all the sacrifices. Praying for your heart to heal." Praying for her heart. Right. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. They were trying to control the narrative, paint me as cold, unstable, selfish. But they forgot something. I don't break easy. I build things. I design structures to withstand pressure. And I was just getting started. It happened around midnight. I couldn't sleep. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, scrolling through old photos on my phone, birthdays, barbecues, Travis in his rodeo gear, Rachel holding her girls, even Dad in his recliner watching reruns with a beer in his hand. There was a time those moments meant something. Now they just felt like still shots from a life I didn't recognize anymore. Somewhere between one swipe and the next, I remembered the old cloud account we'd all shared years ago. It was supposed to be for family stuff, vacations, holiday plans, shared calendars. But no one had touched it in a while, or so I thought. I logged in out of curiosity. Same password Mom always used, the name of her first cat and her wedding anniversary. I was in within seconds. What I saw made my stomach twist. There was a folder called Family Logistics tucked beneath a bunch of old pictures. I opened it. Inside, screenshots, chats, PDFs, notes, some dating back months, maybe even a year. It was all there. A private group chat between Mom, Rachel, Jared, and even Aunt Carol. And I wasn't in it. The first thing I read was a message from Rachel. If Carl pulls back on the payments, we spin it as a breakdown. Mental strain. Work stress. He's been quiet lately. It'll sound believable. Then Mom responded, exactly. And if we say it together, people won't question it. Start gathering examples of him acting off. Jared, check your texts. There were laughing emojis after that. Thumbs up reactions. It read like a war plan. I scrolled further. And Carol, don't forget, he still has access to the ranch account. If he's out, we should say he mismanaged funds. Push that narrative early. Jared, yeah, and if he starts talking trash, we'll just say he's mad about Travis getting more attention. They were joking about it, laughing like kids playing a prank. But the worst one? It was from Mom, 2 weeks before the dinner at the Weiner. We'll do Travis's rodeo night instead. Carl won't make a scene. He never does. He'll just sulk and pay the bill like always. There it was. The proof. They didn't forget. They didn't get busy. They planned it, rehearsed it. I sat there, jaw clenched, heart thudding, not because it hurt, but because the clarity was blinding. They weren't just careless. They were calculated. So I did what engineers do when something's structurally unsound. I documented the failure, screenshots, every last message. I saved them to a private folder and printed the key ones out in clean, sharp black and white. No room for misinterpretation. Then I made a list of names, cousins, aunts, uncles, family friends, the ones who had commented on Mom's dramatic Facebook post, people who didn't know the whole story, people who'd only heard one side. I composed a short message. Since a lot of misinformation has been floating around, I thought it was time for some clarity. Attached are excerpts from a private chat involving my immediate family, discussing how to manipulate and discredit me behind my back. I'm sharing this not for sympathy, but for truth. If you're going to take sides, I prefer you see all the facts first. Then I sent it. Every single one of them. 28 emails, 15 texts, no fluff, just the truth and the proof. The fallout was instant. The group chat buzzed back to life like a hornet's nest. Jared posted, "What the hell, Carl? You went through our stuff." I didn't reply. Rachel messaged me directly. "You had no right. That was private." But she didn't deny it. By noon, extended relatives were calling. Aunt Lisa from Temple called and said, "I had no idea, honey. I thought you were just being dramatic." Uncle Troy sent a thumbs up emoji and then a simple text. About damn time. Even some of the cousins who had commented sad faces under Mom's post deleted them. The tide was shifting. The spotlight they shined on me, I turned it back on them, and it showed everything. And the best part? I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I didn't even raise my voice. I just handed them the mirror and let them watch themselves unravel. The voicemail came at 2:17 a.m. I was half asleep when the buzz shook my nightstand, but something told me to check it. Maybe I already knew what was waiting. I played the message on speaker. My father's voice came through low and jagged, like gravel under boots. "You smug little bastard. You think you're smart? You think exposing the family makes you some kind of hero? You've embarrassed your mother. Your sister's crying. Jared's threatening to drive down there. You started something you won't be able to finish, Carl. And you better be damn sure you want this. Because there's no coming back." He hung up without saying my name. I sat there in the dark, staring at the ceiling. No part of me was afraid, but the words stuck. No coming back. Good. I got up, turned on every light in the house, opened my laptop, logged into every account that had my name tangled up with theirs, and started cutting ties. First, I called the bank and reported all co-signed cards as fraud risk. Locked, deactivated, canceled. Then I hit the title office website and began removing my name from the ranch's maintenance trust. I flagged the property account for pending legal review, citing mismanagement. Sent the email straight to Dad's inbox. By sunrise, I had filed a fraud alert on all my credit reports, changed every password, pulled every access code, even the family Netflix account, which they still somehow used on my dime. It was all gone. Then, I opened my LinkedIn. I stared at the blank update box for a long moment, heart steady, fingers still, and I wrote, "Family isn't always a safe word. Sometimes it's a leash." After years of quietly financing people who refused to show up for me, I've chosen to cut ties. Yes, I canceled the payments. Yes, I shared the receipts. Yes, I stood alone in a room built for 12 while they celebrated someone else. I'm done being the wallet, the scapegoat, the fallback plan. I built my life from the ground up. I won't let those who never lifted a finger drag it back down. I attached 4 screenshots in the comments, excerpts from the group chat, just enough to prove the betrayal, but not enough to feed drama hunters. Then I hit post. It went viral by noon. Engineers, architects, project managers, Quiet professionals who'd carry their families too long without thanks. The comments poured in. This hit hard. You don't owe them peace. Thank you for showing it's okay to walk away. And my inbox? Filled with offers. Not sympathy. Opportunity. A woman from Seattle messaged me, asking if I'd ever consider consulting. A guy from Charlotte offered me a contract on a private development. But most importantly, my boss called. Hell of a post, he said, not unkindly. You all right? I'm good, I said. Better than I've been in years. He paused, then said, well, in case they try anything else, you're covered here. I blocked the number permanently. HR's on standby, but you're solid with us. I thanked him. Then I poured myself a cup of coffee and sat back, listening to the silence of a house no longer tied to chaos. But the family? They weren't done screaming. Rachel posted a story on Instagram, a photo of her girls with the caption, when the man you called uncle decides groceries aren't his problem anymore. Jared messaged me again. You better pray we don't cross paths. I ain't gonna be so polite next time. And Mom called 12 times that day alone, left long, emotional voicemails about unity, God, and how Carl's always been sensitive. But none of them mattered, because that night, I walked into my backyard, under the string lights I'd hung myself 3 summers ago, and felt something in my chest unlock. Not revenge, not pride, freedom. The leash was off. The facade was gone. The man they thought they could guilt, manipulate, and bleed dry had left the building. And all they had left was the echo. She asked to meet at the park, the one with the old pecan tree, just past the baseball fields on County Road 12. The same spot we used to visit when I was a kid. Picnics, scraped knees, birthday photos. I almost didn't go. But curiosity is a stubborn thing. I parked at the far end and spotted her immediately. My mother sat on the wooden bench beneath the massive pecan branches, arms folded tight, jacket zipped all the way up despite the Texas spring air. She looked smaller than usual, not physically, just folded in on herself. She didn't wave when I approached. Carl, she said, standing slowly. You came. I said I would. I replied. She motioned to the bench. Sit with me. I didn't move. Say what you need to say. That seemed to throw her a bit, but she gathered herself quickly. She gave that little sigh she always used when she wanted to seem calm but was actually pissed. I don't know what's happening to you, she began. All this. The money, the public statements, the accusations. It's not like you. It's cold. I kept my eyes on hers. You want cold? You left me sitting alone at a 12-seat table while you all clapped for Travis at a rodeo. Then you launched a smear campaign because I stopped footing the bill. Her face twitched, but she kept going. We didn't mean for it to come out like that. You know how this family is. Things move fast. We didn't think you'd take it so personally. I actually laughed. That's her defense? You left me behind on the biggest night of my career, lied about it, and then tried to sabotage my job. And your excuse is, we didn't think it'd matter. She crossed her arms, mouth tightening. It wasn't sabotage. I called because I was worried. You were acting strange. Distant. No, Mom, I said, voice flat. I was finally drawing a line. The wind rustled the leaves above us. Somewhere in the distance, a kid's bat cracked against a baseball. I pulled the envelope from my coat pocket, the same one I'd shown HR and half the extended family. I handed her a copy of the chat logs. She didn't take them at first. What is this? Proof, I said. That you, Rachel, Jared, and Carol plotted to discredit me. That you knew exactly what you were doing when you skipped that dinner. When you sent that message. When you called my boss. She reached out, hesitated, then took it with stiff fingers. Her eyes scanned the pages. Her jaw moved like she wanted to argue, but the words weren't forming. Where did you? She started. That old cloud account, I said. Same one you used to share pie recipes. You never deleted anything. A long silence passed. Then she said, quietly, I didn't think you'd ever find it. No, I replied, voice low. You didn't think I'd ever look. She finally sat down, the folder in her lap, hands trembling just enough to notice. I didn't want it to go this far. It went this far the moment you chose a county fair over me. She shook her head. I didn't think you cared that much. You're right, I said. I didn't care about the rodeo. I cared that it was the only night I asked you to show up, and you didn't. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said softly. But you did. She looked up at me then, really looked, and for a second, I thought I saw regret. Not performance, not manipulation. Just an old woman who knew she'd finally pushed too far. Then she said the thing that broke it all. You've always been dramatic, Carl. Sensitive. You feel too much. That's the real problem. And just like that, the thread snapped. I took a breath, nodded once, and stood. You know what, Mom? You're right. I do feel too much. I felt it when I bought your medicine and paid your mortgage and covered for Jared's messes. I felt it every time I watched you beam at Travis or Rachel like they hung the damn moon. And I felt it when you never once looked at me that way. She opened her mouth, but I didn't let her speak. I've spent my whole life giving you everything I had, hoping you'd see me. But I'm done begging to be loved in a language you'll never speak. Her lip trembled, but she didn't say a word. I took one last look at her, the woman who taught me how to spell my name, who kissed my scraped knees, who once said I'd grow up to build things that lasted. She didn't know I'd outgrow her, too. I'm not coming back, I said. Then I turned and walked away. No hug, no final word, just the sound of gravel underfoot and the pecan leaves rustling overhead. Behind me, silence. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty for leaving it there. It was close to 10 at night when my phone buzzed again. I almost didn't answer. After everything, I'd gotten used to ignoring calls, especially the ones from people who'd suddenly remembered my number when their bank card stopped working. But this time, the screen said Travis, the rodeo star, the cousin whose victory they all celebrated while I sat alone in a winery. I let it ring until the last second, thumb hovering over decline, then finally pressed accept and held the phone to my ear without saying a word. Hey, Carl, he said after a pause. His voice was low, uncertain. I know this is probably weird, but I was hoping you'd talk to me for a minute. I didn't answer, just leaned against the counter and waited. I didn't know, he said. About the dinner, about the way they played it. Aunt Rachel told me later you were supposed to be at Bailey Ridge that night. I swear I didn't have a clue. I thought we were all just doing what we usually do. Show up, support each other, cheer for whoever's got something going. I took a breath through my nose but stayed silent. I wouldn't have let them do that to you if I'd known, he added. Hell, Carl, you're the one who helped me get that sponsorship gig last year. You wrote the pitch. They don't even know that. Another pause. I guess I just wanted to say I'm sorry for being the reason they left you hanging, for being the excuse they used to avoid celebrating. I closed my eyes. He sounded genuine, not groveling, not trying to fix anything, just saying what he needed to say. I don't blame you, I said finally. My voice came out quieter than I expected. Not your fault they put me last. He let out a breath, almost a sigh of relief. I was wondering if maybe we could get a beer sometime. Just talk, one-on-one. I stared at the dark kitchen window, the reflection of myself barely visible in the glass. Not right now, I said. I'm not ready to open old doors again. Not yet. Okay, he said quickly. Yeah, that's fair. I get it. He didn't press, didn't plead, just said, if you ever change your mind, I'll be around. I'm not gonna disappear. I nodded, knowing he couldn't see it, but somehow figuring he'd understand. Take care of yourself, Travis. You too, man. He hung up. I set the phone down on the counter and stared at it for a while. There was no anger in my chest, no bitterness, just space. And I realized something right then. Healing doesn't come from more words. It doesn't come from apologies wrapped in family ties. It starts with distance. And I was finally willing to give myself that. It was the quietest part of the morning, just after 6, when I made the call. The sky was barely tinted blue. Coffee in one hand, phone in the other. I dialed the number I hadn't used in over a year. Uncle Mason. He was my father's older brother by 12 years. Retired now, lived on the edge of Kerrville in a little ranch house with an aluminum roof that clicked when it rained. Mason never took sides. Never spoke unless he had something worth saying. The kind of man you'd forget in a room. Until he cleared his throat and everyone listened. He picked up on the second ring. Carl, he said, like he already knew why I was calling. I took a breath. I'm not asking for anything. Just figured, if anyone should know the full picture, it's you. He didn't interrupt. I told him everything. The skipped dinner, the cutoff, the Facebook circus, the chat logs, the final showdown under the pecan tree. I left out the rage, the bitterness. Told it clean, like I was reading someone else's report. When I finished, he didn't say anything for a while. Just the faint sound of his old grandfather clock ticking in the background. Then he spoke. I figured it was something like that, he said. Your father's always been loud. Your mother always liked her games. But you were the quiet one who paid attention. They didn't think you'd ever say no. I did. I said. Hard. Good, he replied. Took you long enough. I almost smiled. Then he asked, what do you need? Nothing, I said. Just peace. That was all. We hung up soon after. Mason never did goodbyes. 3 days later, things started moving. First, it was a credit reversal on the last ranch payment. The bank flagged it as misapplied and refunded me in full. Then came 2 deposits from unknown certified accounts. The exact amounts I'd lost over the years, down to the penny. Rachel's fuel card expenses. Jared's emergency withdrawals. Grocery bills logged under my name. It all came trickling back. No signatures. No notes. Just Mason's quiet influence moving like a shadow through the town. I didn't ask how. I didn't need to. I just texted him 2 words. Thank you. He replied 10 minutes later. You earned it. Now live like you've got no more strings. 2 months later, I stood barefoot on the balcony of my new apartment, a 22nd floor penthouse overlooking the Gulf, breeze rolling in off the water, mug of coffee in hand. Corpus Christi wasn't where I thought I'd end up. But when the private firm from the coast offered me double what I'd been making, and no ties to my old life, I didn't think twice. Packed up my truck, left the house keys with a realtor, and drove south until I couldn't hear my family's voices anymore. The air here was different, lighter, quieter. No one knew me as the guy who bailed people out. No one expected me to cover their rent, co-sign their cards, or smile through another guilt trip at Sunday dinner. In this city, I was just Carl, a man who knew how to build things that didn't fall apart. My new office was sleek, minimalist, overlooking the marina. The team respected my work, not my willingness to say yes. When they asked about my past, I kept it simple. Small-town guy. Wanted something different. They didn't press. I didn't offer more. I joined a weekend cycling group, grabbed beers after work with a couple of the younger engineers, even found myself sitting in on a poetry night at a bar without realizing. Nobody talked about rodeos. Nobody asked what my cousin was up to. Nobody said the words, but their family. They didn't need to. The silence was the best part. Well, almost. Every couple of weeks, I'd get a letter forwarded from my old address. 1 from Rachel, 2 from Mom. Once, even Jared. They were always different on the surface, full of news, updates, dramatic regrets. but every single one ended the same. Please just call. Let's put this behind us. I never responded. I changed my number, locked down every platform, deleted every thread. The Carl they knew? He didn't live here anymore. Only one person still had a way through. Mason. He'd text every now and then. Never pushed. Just short, quiet check-ins. Storms this week. Hope the place holds up. Cowboys lost again. You're not missing much. Saw one of your designs in the paper. Sharp lines. Each time, I'd reply the same way. Thank you. And that was enough. Out here, I didn't owe anyone anything. Not money, not explanations, not even my presence. I'd built a life from the wreckage. Simple, steady, clean. The kind where every door was mine to open or keep shut. And for the first time in 36 years, I finally knew the difference between being alone and being free.